being a good, oops, do I go this way or that way? Oh, okay. All right, so being a good project manager, I always have a plan. First of all, I'm going to say, well, why are you listening to me in the first place? And sort of give myself some credibility. I'm going to quickly go through what ITIL, TQM, PMP, and Agile are. You all can look it up on the network, on the internet, don't care. I'm going to explain more carefully a bit more why some techniques work and why some techniques don't work. I'm going to then go into project management, what are the goals, and then sort of looking at the work that a particular IT department does and how a project manager will go about trying to make order out of chaos, and then I'll end it up with the tools I like to use, books I like to use, and then questions. So the formative years. I started out as a BFA in sculpture, had a great time, put myself through college being a computer operator, throwing continuous form, big boxes, and then working on the great big old machines. I then became a Unix sysadmin at CMU, where I discovered Unix. We were running 4.1 BSD. It was wonderful. I finally became interested in computers and moving forward. I got a master's at the Media Lab, and then I went back to sysadmin because I found out through 2 years of programming I did not like to sit in a closet by myself and program. I'm much more exciting to be a sysadmin. And really where I learned most about sysadminning was through my years on the SAGE board. I was there for about 7 years. And with all those conferences and all of that, I would talk to people, what's it like at your site? What are your problems? Are your users nice? All of these, how do you guys manage this? How do you guys do it at a bank? The single sysadmin sites all the way up to the huge 20-person network group. So I always loved the art of systems administration, and I always thought it was really interesting. So I did that for a long time. And then single parenthood came along, and I couldn't handle the pager anymore. So I transitioned to be a project manager since I was already a manager of Unix groups. Because I wasn't so technical, they kept pushing me up, and I was the nice girl and could talk to management, and I didn't mind doing spreadsheets. So it was a natural transition. My first real big job was working on a trouble and asset database for Ask.com. We had operations all over the globe. They were all bought from other different companies. There was no coordination whatsoever. And so I worked for a year interviewing all of these different groups, finding out what was their pain points, what took the longest time, what was repeatable, what was unique about those things, and then developing with all those different groups a process, then working with a software company to develop the software. So your trouble tickets were immediately associated with an asset. So you could say, show me all the trouble tickets with this particular cluster. Show me when all of my machines are going to end their maintenance. There was just all this great information in there. And then they closed the Boston office. So I then had to go get another job, and I was a consultant working for another company, but working at Microsoft. Now, maybe some of you heard about something called a sidekick. Once upon a time, Microsoft owned it, and they had bought this company, and it was running on Unix servers, and they had no idea how to manage them. And in the middle of the afternoon, somebody decided to upgrade their SAN, and the whole thing went down, and thousands of users gave Microsoft a bad name, and oh, horror and horror and horror. So Microsoft decided to build this new NOC. because the one in Redmond just was not going to do Unix. This was a Microsoft NOC to manage Linux systems. That was a very odd experience. Okay, and we'll get to more horror stories there. The next job I had was there's a very large web hosting company, and they were developing a new data center. They were doubling their size, so that was fun. I was hired to go out and look at different data centers and then do all of that sort of fun stuff as far as building it with networks and organizing all of that. And that was fun. That was a really good time. Then it was awful. I was at Scholastic. Now, Scholastic books, you think of them as, you know, the kiddie books. They actually are the United States' largest provider of software for children in schools. Now, right after No Child Left Behind, they had this application where teachers could give tests to kids for helping their reading. They could find out if a kid didn't understand conjunctions, didn't understand verbs, whatever, and build a lesson plan just for that kid. So the best thing about this thing was that it could put out reports showing that the progress of each student. So that was very, very important. And so we had this hosted website where 15 million students would get on and do their tests and do their lesson plans and all of this. Well, of course, these guys decide, well, in 6 months, we're going to completely restructure our whole computing infrastructure. And we're going to launch all new software, and it has to be ready by August 1st. Oh, by the way, you must maintain your old dead, nasty, falling down server. And this poor group was just so torn apart because they had to keep this old one running while still building the new one. So I was brought in to help them figure out how to prioritize their things. Then I worked at ITIL, which was a startup at the Harvard Innovation Lab. And that was like the old days where you're building stuff. And talk about project management. In a startup, you generally do everything anyway. This one was just unbelievable. I was going to the hardware store every day, which I like, but it's not really what one would consider standard project management. Now, actually, I really am in a spot where most people would consider an IT project manager or software development project management person to be. You know, that's more of a standard job now. But being a sysadmin, and these guys are not sysadmins, I have to tell them all the time, no, you don't do it like that. You know, no, you don't have to write your own security and login and all of that. No, don't do that. Stop. No. You know, don't do that. You know, yes, you can put your stuff in here, but they really like their logs in var log. You know, that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to get them to understand more along the lines of Unix systems management, since we're building a tool for systems managers. ITIL. Here's your little Wikipedia. The nice thing about this is if you're Microsoft or if you're the U.S. government and you're building a battleship, the best thing about ITIL, it's for those huge, expansive, big problems, those where you have a knock of 50 people there all the time, where you have 20 different contractors and you have to plan out what every contractor is going to be doing along the way. And then you have to get them to write it all up in specifications that match this format. And then you have to write the contracts. And then it's endless, 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 very regimented, very strict control, and really is fairly useless for small sysadmin sites. But really what these things are just a library of techniques. Now, this is an ITIL, incident management impact versus urgency. So this is very typical of ITIL, where you look at the impact and the urgency and the priority, and then you have who to call based on all of this criteria. And then you also have things like, okay, well, if it's been in this state for an hour, well, then the urgency goes up 2 points. You know, that's all great and good once it's running, but it's hell to figure out. I mean, it's just because in sysadmin land, things don't really work like that. The next one was something that we did a lot at BBN, was total quality management. You'll hear this. That works really well for repeatable work, for factories. It's also something from Japan, where you're building a consensus culturally. People have to agree, and then you all move forward in a nice unit. Well, I've never met an IT department that does that, have you? No. So that was one of the major processes we had there. Now, PMP, this is by far your most important area these days. It is really very flexible, very logical, very adaptable. Again, it's a bunch of framework, and it has these knowledge areas and provides suggestions on how to do things or how to manage things in all of these different areas. And so they also have these certifications, and you can get a certification in systems engineering. You don't have to know anything about computers. You know, I know there's a network, I know there's a router, but that's about it. Okay, but I know how you should respond within that time frame. You know, so there's a bit of a big disjoint in the education of project managers, right? And especially in technical fields. Now, agile software development is also very, very popular. This is a set of techniques where you are constantly reiterating and developing software, where you work on it and you plan for it, and then you work on it and you plan for it, and you work on it and you plan for it, and eventually it all gets done. That was the idea. So you basically take your big software project, you decide that you have to do the I/O, the GUI, those descriptions, those are epics. You break those down into stories, and then from there you break it down into tasks. Then you can rank the importance of these different things, these different tasks. You estimate how much time it's going to take. After a few months of this, you know that your group will probably be able to do, 200 story points in a month. So when you, Adam's laughing. And, right, so then you cut it off at 200 and you say, that's it. We will accept no more work for 2 weeks while we get this work done. And that works really well for software developers, actually. You know, they get to concentrate, and get stuff done. Again, not the best thing for IT departments. Another one worth of note, another method of work is the Kanban board, which really doesn't do the whole 2-week thing. They just work on stuff until it gets done. Here is a shot of our ranking, where we used Jira. Yeah. And then here's our Kanban board, where basically you have your research, your ideas, the stuff you think you want to do soon, stuff that's ready to work to be done, that you've got approved, that you want to do, stuff that people are actually working on, stuff that's actually in QA, and the stuff that's actually done. And you clear your board when you hit your little release button up there, and your software flies out, works. It's wonderful. I have hit the button. Okay, so PMs know all about these frameworks, the processes, right? Like what should happen, okay? IT people know about technology, and they know something different is going to happen.
Only poorly defined.
Yeah, management knows they want something. It's not going to be well defined by a date that's far too near in the future, right? Users just want it to work so they can get their work done, right? And then developers want well-designed and well-thought-out detailed specifications. Notice this poorly defined, and then there's this big leap to well-thought-out detailed specifications. Now that's where your project helps. Okay, writing specifications, making those sort of things clear to management, asking management those questions. Well, how much do you want to spend? Oh, I don't know, 100 million. Really? You have, pardon me for asking this, has that budget been approved yet? Oh, no. Okay, all right, okay. Yeah, he's going to spend $1 million. Okay, so, you know, that sort of thing. Now, as you guys know, I'm not going to talk too much about IT departments because you guys all know about IT departments, but you know, no two computing infrastructures are the same at all. The people are different, the systems are different, all the software is different. I don't care if one site is running all the same Linux servers and another site is running all the same Linux servers. The processes are going to be different, the people are going to be different, the purpose of the computing infrastructures are different. And if a company is poorly run, its computing infrastructure will run poorly. I have seen this time and time again. When I'm interviewing, it's like looking at the underbelly of a company when you're looking at their IT departments, right? Because you can see whether they are well-sourced. You can see whether they're well-managed. You can see whether the people there are happy or not. And you can really extrapolate that to the rest of the company, because I've never known a company with a really bad computing infrastructure being a really good place to work. Okay. So ITIL, what? Yeah, there are. There actually are. Undoubtedly, the one that you are running is well run. Okay. What? If you guys make jokes, you got to speak louder. Oh, you are? Okay. So ITIL, too much planning. Okay. Mostly in IT departments, they're considered overhead. And they don't like to spend money for planning, although they should. PQM, too many individual thinkers, herding cats. Trying to do PQM with herding cats is not going to work. PMP is great. I like it. Agile, fast on its feet. But you can't really put a lot of stuff, you know, wait for 2 weeks. And then most PMs come from business school. They come from the management side of things, not the technical side of things. That's one of the things I learned very much when I went to these PMP things, that I sort of stood out like a sore thumb because I knew about computing somewhat. Okay? And all these people are talking about these dang programmers who just won't get it done on time. And it's like, well, what were you having them do? Oh, they needed to debug something. And I'm like, what? Okay. Well, I gave them 2 hours to get it done. What? That's What? Yeah, if they spoke to them. Yeah. I send them mail and they should read it immediately. Okay, so as we said, the lack of IT knowledge really offends a lot of IT people. It's like, you're wasting my time, get out of my face. IT departments often do not control their workflow. There's a lot of stuff that happens that they really can't foresee. Project deadlines rarely relate to the amount of work. So when you're defining a software project, like you're writing code, you spend some time thinking about how much time it's going to take, what you have to write. Okay, we have to do this database. Should we use that database or this database? Okay, well, we'll spend 2 days, kicking the tires of this database and another 2 days kicking the tires of that database. So by Friday, we should have an idea of which one we want to use. Doesn't work. So often, IT departments are just not included in the planning from the get-go. And that's really very hard on them. Management. Who is really in charge? I took that picture today. That guy's in my office. All right? Oh, for the people who are on GoToMeeting, do they see me? Let me check. Okay, good. Big pink gorilla. Okay. Management structure is not always straightforward. The manager may not be the real manager. It may be the technical leader. It may be the 500-pound gorilla. It may be a wimpy CTO who only makes a decision when they're very forced to. So, but the point here is that the PM is rarely the person in charge. Okay? So I am the person who is responsible for getting work done. All these people are going to be on my ass when work doesn't get done. Can I fire anyone? No. Can I yell at anyone? No. Can I kick butt? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But generally we try to do nice things first. Okay, if any process is to work for a PM within an IT department, you need to have the support of management. Management is generally the person who is the leader, whether it's the 500-pound gorilla, the technical manager, or the manager. You must have their support. If you don't, go look for another job. Seriously, you can be stuck in the middle for political reasons. Somebody can hire you just to take care of the 500-pound gorilla, and that's not fun. Okay, so PMs actually can make order out of chaos. Now, I'll talk more about structuring the type of work IT departments do, but PMs can do the documentation. They can coordinate the documentation. They can write the documentation, take it to the technical person, say, hey, correct this. Oh, yeah, baby, you got this all wrong. To get that person to write the initial documentation is like pulling teeth. Getting them to correct your documentation is not a problem. Okay? So you have to be, like me, prepared to put something up there just so there's something to criticize. Okay? Just to get it started. Okay? And then you have to work with managers to structure their expectations. You might have a manager that doesn't have a good sense of time. Like I do. Actually, no, my boss, I love my boss. He's great. But basically, the idea is to put the right people with the right skills in the right job. And that is a lot of what your PM does, is a lot of human engineering. So for instance, I might go to a manager and I might say, hey, you know, that person over there actually has some talent. Maybe we should send them to school for, I don't know, Bright Pearl or something. You know, hey, this network guy, he's really bored. He's really crabby. He's causing problems. But you know what? He likes databases. Let's see if we can't get him to working on a database. Make him happy. Make him productive. Make him a positive force rather than making him sit there and gripe, complain, anger. You got to figure out the culture. I'm going to talk more about that. Introduce tools. And keep your meetings short. I schedule 15-minute meetings. Although with Jacob, that doesn't work too well. There are some people who do drag their meetings on. So my advice for that is to schedule them for a half hour before you have to leave work that day. And so you can say, oh, 5 o'clock, my kid's waiting for me. Bye. Okay, they can't really do anything. So, but whatever it is, keep your meetings short. Don't let them drag on. Have an agenda, sweet and over. Because remember, as a PM, your main job is to get people's happiness level up so that they do good work. Grumpy people don't do good work. Okay? So also, you give anything that's non-technical to the PM. Any sort of planning, support contracts, anything to do with a spreadsheet. Nerds hate spreadsheets. Write reports, go get quotes, coordinate meetings, you know, communications, monthly letters, whatever it is that distract these guys from doing their work. I had one guy who just would not fill out his forms. Oh, man, that was just so awful. Oh, I have to fill out a form. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, oh. Okay, well, if you fix that bug, I'll fill out your form. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so the bug got fixed. It had been waiting for 3 weeks to get fixed. That's how I got it fixed. Okay? And you're shaking your head.
No, I believe it.
Yeah. That's the problem. Okay, so I wanted to talk about IT work, whether it's your network, whether it's your database, whether it's your SAN. It's always in these categories. You're fighting the fires, the unexpected work. User services, small tickets, oh, I got to change a drive that died, you know. You're going to be upgrading existing services or hardware. You're going to be installing new services or hardware. And then there's your general care and feeding, backups of the infrastructure. Repeatable stuff you do all the time. And then, of course, the users never see any of this, right? Your management, your upper level management, unless there's somebody who grew up on the technical side, doesn't know this. They are uninformed as your users are uninformed. So watch for that, okay? So again, going back to how that when you're a PM and you land in a group, you got to take a big view of the work. How much work is unexpected? How does it come in? Are the work queues in people's mailboxes? How is the work prioritized? Is it the squeaky wheel or the sexy girl that gets stuff done? You know? How can this work be categorized along those terms that I just put forth? Does your ticket system fulfill all of your needs, right? Is everything all in this corner or that corner? And do people have, again, the correct skills? Do you have somebody who is consistently not getting something done because they don't know how to do it? Or is it because they're just slow? Or they just are too much into detail. So you have to really sort of understand what it is that the department is trying to achieve and try not to gossip about people. Then understand the culture of the company and the group. Is it very structured, like Microsoft? Or is it organic, unorganized, a startup? Everybody's doing everything. How are decisions made? This goes back to the 500-pound gorilla. Who is the real decision maker? Okay. How are projects developed? Is somebody walking in the door from marketing saying, I want a web page? Or are things actually decided? How involved is your manager? Do they understand what you're doing or no? Is there often in many IT departments and service organizations the concept of losers? Those users are losers, I hate them, you know, and they actually don't want anybody in. Is there a personality issue in your group? Somebody who is just constant, like the rotten apple in the barrel. What's the history of the last PM? I actually was at an interview where the big guy comes up to me and says, this was the 500-pound gorilla, you know, project managers don't work around here. Really? Have you ever had one? Well, no. He just didn't want me. He knew my job was going to be to look at his work, okay, and tell him something about it. And he just did not want to have anybody tell him anything about his work, which is one of the reasons they were hiring me, right? Because the management couldn't do anything with this guy. They didn't have the balls to fire him. So let's hire a contract PM. Maybe she can get him to do something. And then how is the department funded? Many times a lot of the problems stem from underfunding. And then I always try not to hit anyone. Okay. And then yeah, no, I haven't hit anyone at work yet. Okay, so you got to determine what you can do and what you can't do. Okay. You have to feel comfortable that some problems just can't be fixed. Some problems are going to take an awful long time to fix, right? So try to pick your battles. Have short conversations with management. You're in management's office an hour every day. You're just wasting your time, okay? You're wasting their time. They're going to get tired of you. They're going to fire you, okay? Keep your meetings with your management short. Have one topic, maybe two topic meetings. Anticipate what you want to tell them, okay? I need to have this person, or we need to have a new person, or, you know, this project is in trouble. Often project managers have to deliver very bad news, okay, to management. And let me tell you, you want out of that office real quick. So have a thought about what is this person going to ask me and what am I going to say. So before you walk in there, right? And then again, don't yell at anyone. Okay, so a good PM conforms to the culture of the company. Being the BFA in sculpture, I think creative. That's what that taught me. Take a problem, turn it upside down and look at it from here, look at it from there, think about it in 4 or 5 different directions. That's really very helpful. Now, I had a boss who only understood spreadsheets. He was a database guy in a previous life, and I wrote him, honest to God, a 5-sentence paragraph. He said it back to me. I have no idea what you're trying to say here. I went, okay. He goes, just send me the numbers. Numbers? What does that do with numbers? So I put it on a spreadsheet. 5, skip a box, another line, another line, another line. Mailed it to him. Oh, he understood it. Oh, my God, he got the information. Oh, geez, it was like the heavens opened up. And so I walk in his office and I go, you know, I didn't change a word from that paragraph. You only understood it because it was on a spreadsheet, right? You realize this, right? And so from then on, I never sent him mail. This guy was so particular. This guy was such a nitpicky little guy that when I would write reports, he would send me, well, perhaps you should have used this word instead of that word. You forgot a period there, you know. But you know what? If I didn't send him a report, he didn't notice. So I quit sending him reports. His feedback was bad. So screw that. You know, so you got to try to really understand the strengths of your management, of the people that you work with, what it is that he needs. He didn't need a report. That was just something that he read and he had to correct. So then there's another management group I work for. They just loved PowerPoint. You know, they could not stand mail, but they had nothing but PowerPoint presentations in their mail, and that's how they understood things. I can't make this up, right? Okay, so now Microsoft, it was very interesting working there because it's so regimented. Oh my God, to get something out in production, you had to go through 3 boards, you had to go through 3 code reviews, I mean, you had to go through a security check. It literally took 3 to 6 months from the time you were done out of QA, right? You're out of QA, you've done all of the testing before it goes into production. Simply because you had to go through these 6 boards to get something in production. Because they wanted to make sure it would work. Okay, you had to have backup plans, you know, but that's the way they wanted it. Okay, that's fine. Made me rich for a year. Okay. All right. So again, coordinate. Do whatever you can do. Fit yourself into the style of the company. See how things get done. Think about how things can get better. And then just move things slightly. And that's where we get to change through evolution. Okay? People change their processes if they see it benefits them, not that it benefits the company. I can get my work done faster. I like my work more. I don't have to do that other annoying thing now. That's when they start working happily. Listen to the complaints. Sometimes a solution is hidden in the complaints, right? Listen to management. What is it that is really important to management? Is it hitting that deadline? Or is it how the work is done? That he doesn't care if it's a week late, but goddamn it, it better work. Okay? Or I don't care if it doesn't work, we're meeting that deadline. Okay? And you have to listen to that because that's what you, as the project manager, have to go and enforce. And again, remember, you have no power or authority. You can't enforce anything. But you got to listen to it. So don't be afraid to propose a change just for a short while, right? Just to see how it works. If people like it, that's great. Let's keep it. If they don't like it, that's fine. Let's shoot it in the head. Yeah, that didn't work. That was a bad idea I had. But then the reason it died are the part of the next solution, right? We still have this problem. We tried this obvious solution here. What do you think is the next best process we should try? Okay? So then people are thinking along with you. They're more likely to try the next change. steal any good idea anywhere you can find them. Agile software development methodologies can be used for projects, like installing something, right? Or you say, okay, you're developing this new web page infrastructure for our users, blah, blah, woof, woof. Okay, work with them and really sort of giving them, okay, this is going to be your chunk of work for 2 weeks, and I'm not going to give you any other work. Okay? That's a completely reasonable thing to do with a project in an IT department. Understand, not everybody has to do all the same thing. Okay? DevOps methodologies can fix those production bugs. Right? So you can have, DevOps is very popular right now, right? So you can say, well, gee willikers, what can we do to fix that problem, And you pull up 3 or 4 different ideas from DevOps or processes and start talking to people. How are we going to do this? Maybe you install another sandbox, whatever the problem is. Make suggestions. Get people involved in part of the solution. That is also very important. Daily scrums. Excuse me. I have found daily scrums, which are generally where you, by Agile standards, everybody stands up in a circle and the scrum master stands there and says, are you blocked? What are you doing today? Can you do it? And the person says, okay, well, I'm writing this bit of code, or I'm supposed to fix this bug, or I'm supposed to install this machine, or I'm supposed to do this, but I can't do that. So it's the Scrum Master's job to remove that blocker, whatever it is, whether they don't have the resources, hi, come on in, or whether they don't have the time, whatever it is. It's then a problem that's on the Scrum Master to fix. But basically, it's really great for a small group. If you have 20 people, too many. Okay? It should be a small, cohesive group that is working. Right? And that day, everybody knows what everybody else is doing, and if somebody needs help for something, oh, those two can go and make a 20-minute appointment for each other to go and figure it out. Right? And so you do this every day, and you find out immediately that the next guy couldn't get yesterday's work done for whatever reason, right? So that me, as project manager, when some project is going down the tubes, I'm the one who's supposed to raise my hand at the management and say, hey, project's going down the tubes. I don't know what to do, So you have to try and figure all of that out. People like drawing. Again, remember, I like to do things that I throw up on the wall for people to criticize and fix, and then guess what? We have documentation. Okay, like how something works. Those flow charts, that sort of thing. People love those. Calendars, oh, I actually did one recently, and you print off this nice big long calendar, and then in red, okay, here's your due date. That's when it's due. Okay, week 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's there on the wall. Okay, and every day a big red X. Okay, very subtle social pressure. The time does not stop, right? But you see those dates ticking away every day. Okay, that helps motivate people. And then write documentation. Try to get it out of people's mailboxes. Git has a lot of documentation. If you like all of your documentation inside your Git repository, well, I suppose so. But I don't know if that's going to be there 2 years later. So you got to think about this. Because in 2 years, somebody's going to come back and is going to have to fix a piece of code. Right? And it may not be in that Git repository. Here is, I use Confluence for a wiki. First thing I did there at Starfish, okay guys, we need Confluence, we need Jira. Okay, so this is where we have consultants doing stuff, what our customers want, documentation, human resources, old crap. Don't delete it. Don't delete it. Just throw it in a directory called old crap. Okay. Another one is sites. That's where I have all of our code installed at all of these different user sites around the country. Our development plan of attack, user stories, all kinds of different things we can put up there. And I love it because people can comment, they can contribute, they can add, they can have a discussion, they can vote. You have team calendars. They have private spaces where they can write their own stuff. It just works to have a real sort of focal point. Now, I know some people have SharePoint and they use that. I love that snicker. Oh, not me, man, not me. Yeah, I'm so happy. Actually, I'm causing a little people at work who have to use SharePoint and then use my Confluence wiki are like, oh, I don't want to use SharePoint anymore. I want to use your Confluence. There you go. I was going to ask about project management because we'll get to that. Okay. Here we're going back to your typical work category. Okay. And all of these different processes, all of these different libraries, the thing to do is be aware of them and then apply whichever one works in your environment, right? So fighting fires, budget time for the unexpected. Okay, so we're sitting there one time at Scholastic, okay, and there's this little agile person sitting there teaching, and absolutely nobody can violate the 2-week thing, and then she's all happy and she sits down next to the VP and he leans over to her. I'm going to be the first one to violate that 2-week thing, don't you? Because he was in charge. He had to deal with all of these management things. He didn't know what was going to happen that next day. If he could give us stuff in advance, he would. But he doesn't live in a 2-week agile world, right? He needs something, and that's it. So we call, and since his name was Midian, every week we had 10 hours dedicated to Midian. Okay? That's how he solved that. If you use it, okay, that's great. If you don't, bonus! We get to finish something else. Okay? So that's the way you handle unexpected work, is you just budget for unexpected work. That's just, and then of course, being in IT, if the whole world blows up, well, you got bigger problems. Okay. User services, small work requests. Again, you have maybe the solution is assigning a person to that type of work. So 50% of that person's time is going to be dealing with the front end. Upgrading existing services must be planned. So a lot of your agile planning techniques can really help there. Installing new services, same thing. Think of it as almost like a software project, but you've got hardware, programming, install, augmenting your tool set to fit your new server, whatever it is. But think of it as if it was an agile software development thing, right? You got to do this, and then you got to do that, and then you got to do, works out really well. ITIL, for as much bad-mouthing as I gave it, does have some good things about escalation, writing contracts with consultants. I have not seen anything more encompassing than one of those. They're really good. And then PMs should really try to be the communication for the IT department, the public relation. Often the PM is the person that has to go to marketing to work out the specifications for a project. Right? Often I'll have to go to marketing and say, okay, you want this whole new website that uses all of this back-end database stuff, and they look at you and go, what's a database? And you say, well, that's where all of those images and those orders and all of that stuff that you want here, that's where it's stored. It's got to go from there to here. You know, we have to write stuff to make it go from here to there. Oh, you mean it's not magic? No, it's not magic. Then weekly progress reports. These can sometimes be public. Most often they're to your upper level management, and they are not public. Okay. So-and-so did valiantly try to get such and such work done, but sadly missed that deadline again for the third week in a row. We will discuss this in person, right? That kind of very delicate message you can put in email, but don't go any further because it follows you around. But announcements, you want to beef up your image of your IT department, announce good things, announce improvements. Often IT departments don't do that because there's nobody around who wants to do it, nobody around who can craft a nice message. You know, it's nobody else's job, really. Okay. Now, for IT departments, choose your PM very carefully. Okay, it's got to be a personality match. There's just no other way around it. Your PM must understand at least something about systems management. Okay, they don't have to be a guru. They just have to know what's up. So, for instance, if my network manager has been up since 6 a.m. because he's been on a denial of service attack, I'm going to cancel my 10 o'clock appointment with him for, laying out the new network and the new data center. One, they're not going to show up anyway. But two, I don't want them to show up because they're going to be brain dead. So I want them to be smart and on top of things. And so that's because I understand that this guy is sending out mail because he's been working all night. I have the noggin to understand that he's too valuable to be wasted on that planning meeting right then. He's not going to give me good stuff. So really, if they don't understand anything, send them away for a week, go read the Evie book, rest her soul, and come back later when you understand something, okay? Because otherwise, you will be explaining too much to them. It'll just be too hard to have a meeting with them. You'll ignore them. Won't like them. Okay? But get somebody who's interested in the technology, somebody who wants to know how it works, somebody who thinks it's really cool when a new system comes up or a new application works, or somebody who can actually do a little Q&A. Not Q&A, do it. You know what I mean. I'm tired. Okay, so human engineering. You really want to get the PM to get the culture together, get everybody to feel inclusive, and move forward. And of course, that's never really going to happen really, really well. But there's things that, like for instance, I did ice cream at Harvard. which started out as every Thursday afternoon, it was free ice cream in the systems office. Yeah.
Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah, you know about that, right? Eventually, I was spending $300 a week on ice cream because it worked. Yeah. Yeah, it worked really, really well, didn't it? I don't know. Are they still having it? I doubt it.
You know, they think, but it's one of these things. Some of those in the past, when you would doing it, don't necessarily have the rationality. Some staff member has to order ice cream.
Nah.
You know Hartford, right?
Yeah.
Hartford, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, somebody comes and like, why are we still doing this? And then nobody explains, right?
Yeah.
The number of administrators that's mushrooms in your ass.
Yeah, it kind of.
They decided to go become the Delusions of Grandeur and became a school.
That's right, delusions of grandeur. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it went downhill. I'm glad to hear that it went downhill after I left.
I can't defend the causal link, but there is maybe something.
Give that man applause. So, but you can see that by improving the culture, you can improve the work. You improve the communication, you improve the work. You improve the mood, you improve the karma, you improve the work. Okay, I'm not saying that your PM has to be a cheerleader, but these are some things that really help. Okay? And then if some asshole is not being cooperative, get the manager to make them cool. Make it more important to them to be cooperative.
How do you find the pool of technical projects? Are there good amounts? Is they hard to find?
Yeah, they're hard to find.
Where do you look for them?
Well, you can hire me.
You love your job.
Call me, baby.
You love your job, Meg.
Yeah. I know, but I'm always
Bobby has large stacks of cash.
You never know what's going to happen. I am at a startup, you know.
Oh, and he's not?
Huh?
And he's not?
Well, you know.
But, on the West Coast, we've got a few.
Yeah.
That's land of Google, so.
Yeah, and you will find better ones out on the West Coast. That has been my experience because there's more people who used to be programmers, more people that used to be systems people, and who have transitioned into it. By far, most of them that are coming straight out of school and just getting their PMP really are business manager types, okay? And those people fail because they don't understand the technology. They walk around with their spreadsheets wondering why something isn't being done. And I have seen IT people straight out lie to project managers just to get them out of the office because they don't care. Right? They really don't care. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I've had that conversation with other PMs. You realize, of course, he was pulling your leg, right? Huh? Oh, yeah.
That's how you know it's
Right. So here's my tools I love. I cannot say enough good things about Jira. Very configurable. Now they host. They do some hosting. You didn't speak up that joke.
I've been trying to get Confluence into our company for a year and a half.
We were this close, we had the budget, and then somebody...
So every time you mention Confluence, I lean over to my
Take a shot.
ex-boss here and take a shot at it.
It's dirt cheap. What the heck is... See, I try not to yell. See why I put that in my... Don't yell, Peg. Don't yell. Okay, but it's really great because as a trouble ticket system, it can be great for that for the users, and it can also be utilized. They have a no Jira service desk now.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, they improved that now.
good, because it used to be very good. It used to have all the basic service development. Yeah, exactly. Good for development and hard logic.
Yeah, no,
So you were saying service desk?
yes.
We just did that. It's nice. We added it here that we already had
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, got a good UI.
Oh, yeah, and it's all tied together with Confluence. So in your planning notes, you can have links to specific tickets. From specific tickets, you can have links to Confluence. You can have links to your calendar. Oh, it's just marvelous. Yeah? No? Okay. So I really, really cannot say enough good stuff about that. Okay. Humor, good karma. Okay, I already talked about that. But also, it really, if it's not working out, find a new job. You know, you're just going to have a lot of heartache. Okay, stick it out as long as you can, as long as the check doesn't bounce. Right, but really look for a new job. Okay, now other helpful books. My time is good. I love seeing the Evie book. Any book by Tom Limoncelli is a good book. Time Management for Sysadmins, though. That is really a very good book because there are certain techniques there, for instance, on how to plan out your day. You know, you have your little matrix, of task number 1, number 2, number 3. Is this one going to take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? What's important? This one is the most important. This is the second most important and the third most important. Well, which one are you going to get done first? Well, I don't have time to do this now, but I have time. I only have 20 minutes, so I can do this one. And then after lunch, I'll get this one done and knock that one out. Or if I want to reserve, this is going to take 130 minutes, then get the little shit done in the morning so your afternoon is free. Okay? I actually had that guy who was a control freak I worked for was one time criticizing somebody because he says, I don't see him always working on the most important thing first. I said, well, he does a lot of stuff with users, and he might have 8 people waiting on this, 2 people working on that, and 0 people working on this. So he's going to get that out of the way first, right? Because those people are waiting on it. It's a short thing. He'll get it out of the way because those 8 people are going to be calling him up when he's trying to get this done. He's got to get those guys off his back first. Okay? And then later on he can get to this one. So there's all these different little methods that Tom has suggested. And I just love it. So, yeah. Sorry, say again? Oh, yeah. Matrix in the morning and matrix because know that today what the story is. Yeah, I still make out a list every morning. I think reading one's email can be a very big source of problems. And if it were up to me, I wouldn't read my mail until noon. So I could get work done and then spend my afternoon, dealing with people, because I got all this stuff to do. And so, I'm an old fart, and I cannot wait to retire and not have to have an email account. Can you imagine freedom from email? Somebody's going to have to send me a letter. This is going to be great. I could live off in my own mountains. Nobody will bug me. It'll be great. Boring. See, when I vacation, I go someplace where there is no electricity.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
With no electricity.
Right. No electricity. Backpacking.
Actually, that was that was the last.
Can't communicate with my daughter. Well, she'll come home. She always comes home. Okay. Then the other book that I really like a lot, even though you're not a software developer, is The Mythical Man Month. Okay. Very, very interesting read. Now, you know, he has this talk about matrix. This is all very interesting. So he has, okay, so you have a program in a garage, right? Okay, and then this is the finished product, right? Anytime you move through one of these phases, right, to where you have multiple little things working together, and you're a more bigger software package, and then you move here or you move here, you triple the amount of time that it takes, right, to get this to here, because you have to go through QA, you have to get more than the one thing to work, you have to get it to work with other things, you have to put in error correction, somebody has to rewrite it, it's not fast enough, we got to get it out of Python, put it in C. You know, there's just all of these different things that have to happen from the garage to the final product. Okay? And I think that's very, very, I found a lot of similarities between that and IT departments. Again, you can find about all this stuff at PMI.org, ITIL. There's lots and lots and lots of information about that stuff. And I really think that if you are stuck on a problem and you don't know how to fix it, just spend 5 minutes Googling one of these and find a library and start looking through the things. Because there are a lot of helpful techniques. You don't have to use them all, but they do give you good ideas. Then, of course, LAPSA, yay, and the Lisa bots. Always good places to find out more information. And closing advice. An IT project manager must understand what is going on. If you, as an IT department, do not inform your project manager of what's going on, they can't help. Okay? And you can have secret meetings. You can make decisions at lunch. You can do whatever you guys want to do, make decisions over email. But if you don't include your project manager, they can't help. They will make mistakes, and you might lose out because of that. Yeah. Read books at night, weekends on the technology, the new technology, whether there's a web page or something like that. There are books. I love O'Reilly books. What can I say? Okay, web pages, whatever, you know. Read book. Okay, try not to stab anyone. Oh, right up in front. Okay. Just go straight for the backstab. Yeah. No, try to think differently. Okay. Most problems are there because everybody is thinking the same old way. Right? And generally, you know, in sysadmin land, if something is a problem and you fix it, and it breaks again and you fix it, you really need to find out why it keeps breaking. Right? And if you don't do that, you're in trouble. So you have to find a PM that understands that, right? You have to put, or you have to explain it to your PM. We must do a root cause analysis here. Please plan for an hour meeting or something. PM should go, no, not an hour meeting. We're not going to have an hour meeting. It'll be most a half hour. Oh, okay. You know, but try to get it together. Steal any good idea you can find. Ask people what works for them. Ask other places, how do they solve that problem? Right? Any place you worked before, they didn't have that problem. Why didn't they have that problem? Oh, they had a person whose job it was to do this or that every month. Oh, that might be helpful here. You know what I'm saying? Think creatively. think how things can be different and listen to people. You know, how's it going? What do you like? What don't you like? How was that project? Okay? Again, when you're finishing a project, do a review. What worked? What didn't work? Why didn't it work? What can we do better next time? And then you write up lessons learned. That should be the very last thing that people have on their project, on their wiki page describing that project. So for instance, I was writing up some specifications the other day, and it was for two things, SF search and SF report. And the developer thought it was all one command because it was all on one page. And I'm like, how can you possibly, I had SF there, SF here, description, 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 examples. Okay, all right. I didn't explicitly tell them it was two separate commands. Okay, bad peg. Okay, from now on, I've learned that that developer needs to have one page per command. Okay, when I'm writing specifications, I cannot put specifications for two things on the same page. It will be misinterpreted. Okay, so I'm constantly learning, right? I mean, that's a sort of an obvious thing, one page, one specification, one, okay? But because they were so closely tied, I just had them on the same page. So it was my fault. So I always try to do better. I admit my mistakes. Try hard not to point out the mistakes of others, right? Or at least try to put it in a positive, like, oh, we know you'll do better next time. You know, and really try to understand that your job is to help other people get their job done. And whatever it takes, that's what you need to do. And don't be too proud to do anything. Any questions? Adam, I wanted to talk to you about project managers at, no? You don't like them?
Well, I'm not in the IT.
Well, do they have any project managers
In IT, I don't know.
in your group?
We're software development, so we have the great they work, but we do all the other stuff. We do Agile, we do all that stuff, so we're not the weird project management stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I can't help you.
Because I was wondering what, because I know they have a very strong PM group there, offices.
I don't know whether it applies to IT.
Yeah, do you know, well, what is the feeling or the culture, what is the culture feeling about PMs? Do they hate them? Do they like them? Necessary evil?
I really only deal with my group, and she's pretty good, but we mostly ignore her because we have to see her once a week and report back to her, and she mostly leaves us alone to get our job done. We're a weird thing. We're a tools group, so we're like, we don't fit into any of the categories. And we don't dislike her. It's just, we don't need her.
You know, she's either doing a really good job or a really bad. But she's skirting.
She does a fine job for what she does, but our group, so our group produces tools for other groups. Part of our project management meetings where the other groups are there for stuff, she's great because she's coordinating releases and things that we're involved in. But for our internal projects, she just sits there and types and hopes that she understands what the hell we're talking about. Because she just leaves, everybody just leaves it alone. The release stuff, yeah. And there is a very strong project management culture around releases.
Yes.
But also our releases are keeping
Yeah.
twice a year.
Yeah. The rest are patches.
Software release twice a year, web release every other. And for that, there's software, I realize no idea.
Does anybody else have a project manager in their IT group?
We had a contract one for a very specific project. It was more around the support, but it was the technical support for the end users.
Yes.
And I found it was great for a couple of reasons. One was just having him manage, put focus on something. So, we're in like 5 departments, so I can go in and say, hey,
got to prioritize this, design Jira this way, so that get the new product to be out. That's when the service desk in. And it was great just that I could go to him, say, hey, all this stuff needs to be handled, and then he went and did surveys of the end users and came back and said really interesting things like that, people hated one group more than the other. We thought it was reversed, that. But things that it was just great having somebody that would just go and do this stuff and then come back like 3 times a week we could get together for half an hour and we have to manage all this stuff. So I found that was very useful. I think the area that it would be helpful is some of the stuff you're talking about where it's more of an IT group where there's so much unplanned work. What always kills us is there's a ton of unplanned work, the projects never get done, the business projects always slip, the internal projects that's technical that never get done, and all anybody's doing is fighting fires, and you have this like 300 ticket backlog all the time.
Yeah.
So that's the problem that always needs solving.
Yeah. No, that's a fairly standard, and what I would do if I went in there is really take a look at the different, again, just like my slide said, the different types of work. Where does the work come from? How can we control that inflow of work? Can we often, quote unquote, fighting fires are just simply because somebody wants something, period. There's no, yes, we will get that for you in 3 days. Okay, there's no throttle on the input. Okay? There's no, if it's fighting fires, it should only be stuff that's really important that needs to be fought right now. Okay? A lot of the time, it may be your high-end executive because he needs to have these stats right now. Okay, so it's 20 minutes. Okay, that's great. But that's because he's the VP of engineering and he needs to have these stats. And he couldn't, and we can't really say no to them. But when we give it to them, we inform them that they would be better stats if he was able to work with us on that, like tell us a day or two beforehand, so he could more fully develop what he needed for us, so we could get better for it. So with every one of those, it's also a chance for educating them on how to better interact with you, right? Okay. Many places, they just don't advertise or think of advertising how to cooperate with us, how to tell us what you need. They think, oh, fill out a trouble ticket and that's good enough, right? So IT departments often do not set expectations for other groups. Or communicate well. That's often what your PM is supposed to do. Is supposed to go out there and say, get the specs from the different groups. Get the requirements. Go back to the engineers. Okay, what do we have to change? What's our calendar? Okay, if accounting wants this and they need it before year end, and marketing wants something and they want it before year end, IT,
I have a small child who's very cranky.
I know, congratulations. You in IT should not be deciding who's the winner or loser. Make the guy upstairs decide, okay, and take the heat for it, right? Because, okay, bigwig, what do you want more? Do you want this deadline to be met, or do you want those needs to be met? We're happy to do both. We can't do them both at once. Okay, you decide, and then we'll do it. Okay, so there's just
to make the opportunity cost explicit. We can do this for you right now, but this is what you're giving up. My force, you have to do it right now.
Yeah, and you can really, you can say, look, I've got 5 people, right? And this is one of the great things about Confluence and the Wiki. You can actually put up little matrices of what your people are busy doing, right? Visibility.
The Kanban board is actually very good at that.
Visibility. You're like, okay, and that's one of the things that we had to do when we were at Scholastic, right? because we were building a new site at the same time we were maintaining an old one. So we had to plan out, okay, the big software, okay, we need Puppet, okay, we need this, we need that, okay, good take. So we knew if we were going to be able to deploy by here, that we had to start working on it here, okay? And if we find that something blows up here, it blew up. Okay, it blew up. Well, we weren't going to fix it until there because we had to get that other work done. That was foundation work for the deployment on September 1st that they absolutely had to have. Okay, so if something dies the last week of August at school, you know, we just said, that's it. You know, you told us you couldn't give us any more people, okay, you live with it. And then you get out of the office as quick as possible. Okay, so it's, again, get somebody who understands IT.
I also feel like there's a lot of work that's not getting automated. A lot of it's particularly internal corporate IT. On the data center side, we've got more, Puppet mentality versus more Windows desktop mentality. It's very different. I was a Windows admin, so I can desired state. Yeah, there's not a lot of internal corporate configuration here. On the flip side, though, some places I work, that's up by design. The people like doing it the way they like doing it, and they like taking time to do it. And it's, for me, I've tried helping with, we can automate this. Yeah. The person likes it. And it's just there's a backlog and people aren't getting service. Right? I agree with you, but sometimes I'm looked at as, I'm the guy telling you how to do your job. It's how I came across, apparently.
Right, and that's when...
But it's so much easier this way. You bang it out in 5 minutes. Yeah.
And that's when you have a project manager help you out. Okay, because your project manager is responsible for keeping people efficient, right? And if you point out to your project manager that Sally loves to sit there for an hour doing twiddly dinks, adding users, whatever, for an hour and a half, and gee willikers, you could spend 2 days writing a script with debugging and QA.
On the flip side, though, the group is also sometimes they had a certain amount of downtime anyway. So it was almost one of those things of I could automate the few busy hours they did have, and then they have even more downtime. So it was one of those things. It was kind of they're not super good.
Well, then,
Well,
then there's other stuff to find for them to do, or further education. Hey, I can keep anybody busy, baby. Yeah.
Just getting the road stuff out of the way.
Yes, yes.
One thing I've found in our group, and I know maybe this sounds odd, is that we found if we're hyperactive about responding to tickets, it actually creates more work for us because we've had the thing they want go away. They're like, here's this, oh, I want this, no, I don't want it. But we just wasted 2 hours getting it for you. And sometimes it's almost trying a perfect percolation time of what should it really be for. Because one guy's installing stuff left and right, and they're like, I don't want this, I don't need it. I'm like, so really,
Yeah.
all of that.
But again, that's
being responsive.
That's a good place for a PM to come in as well, because they're going to ask you a half dozen things in order to prioritize the work. And I've done that and think, oh yeah, I didn't think about, no, I don't actually want that. Okay, that's fine, no problem. I save myself, 8 hours of work. They're trying to bring this in, only then you discover after you've thought about it that it wasn't needed.
Another suggestion I might have for you is SLAs, which are more or less I promise I'll get this work done within this certain time frame, right?
That's what I'm coming for.
And advertising those. So you're setting your users' expectations. If they want X by Friday, they need to put in that request 3 days beforehand because guess what? They're going to get a little note back that says, thank you for your request. We will have that for you within 3 days. You know, and so there's a constant training of the users. Like again, once you respond with work back to the user, that's a training opportunity for the user, right? To get them to tell you what they wanted. You know, that's one of the things we found at ask.com was that a lot of requests came in incomplete or without approval, okay? So this developer would send me, I need a machine that can do this, that, and the other thing, and blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, you know, when IT sent, you know, an invoice to this manager for his approval, he went, what the fuck, I'm not going to pay her. So the request wasn't even approved before it got to us. So we wasted our time, right? So at Ask, one of the things that we did was we created these processes. So when a ticket came in and you selected new machine, okay, it automatically knew that a manager had to approve that. So the ticket went directly to that manager for approval. Didn't come to us. He requested a new machine. That means that manager has to approve it. And it's stuck in their queue until he approves it. Right? Wasn't that great? Oh, I'm over time. Okay. So, you see, another one, external IP addresses. Oh my God, get an external IP address. Why do you need it? Where do you need it? What country do you need it? You know, so much of this round robin time was wasted between figuring out what they needed, how they needed it, what was the request, that we actually had an application that was based on the type of request, with Ajax way back when, and all of the menus would change, and some of them were required. Like you could not fill out this ticket until you had all the information. So it sat in your queue, the requester's queue, until they could provide all of the information that was required for the thing to be done. Okay? So there's certain things that can be done to streamline this stuff. Bless you, bless you. Any other questions?
Going once,
Going
twice.
gone, yay!
Thank you very much.
I hope you all learned a little something. I hope you had a little...
It goes down the edge.